Hello and welcome to the Dungeon Nerds podcast. You're joined by myself, Rise Inquisitor, and as always, the lovely Midnight Wolf.
Hi guys!
Now, as I'm aware, I know it has been a lot longer than the week that we said it was going to be, where we was going to do it on a weekly basis. There are very good reasons for that, I promise you. We've been very, very busy over the last month. The pair of us. And no, that busyness isn't going to change. However, I'll try and do updates on changes on, what's happening with the podcast schedules and everything like that as and when they happen. Because there will be certain weekends coming up where we will just not be able to live stream on Sundays for various reasons. So don't worry too much about that right now. We're going to start things off with what we said we was going to start things off last time. Warhammer Plus. It all came out what was happening with it. We got the full update on what was coming out, and honest to God, I actually think it's really worth the money. I don't know if you can remember everything that was offered Midnight.
There was 8 different seasons, a selection of models, and
Okay, well, straight from the Warhammer community page, and these are direct quotes. In short, with a Warhammer Plus subscription, you'll get a wealth of Warhammer animation. Well, maybe eventually, but to begin with, it's going to be slim pickings. Weekly in-house Warhammer hobby shows, so a lot of the stuff that they featured on their YouTube and their Facebook, like their painting masterclasses and everything like that, are probably going to appear on Warhammer Plus as well now, or exclusively on Warhammer Plus. A digital vault of classic Warhammer publications and White Dwarf issues. Now, I don't know what it means by Warhammer publications, whether it refers to novels or just like maybe their chapter approved stuff, but those were in the White Dwarfs. So, but regardless, that's cool. So now we have access to all of the White Dwarfs if they put them all up there anyway. Including some of the older ones from like 3rd, 4th and 5th edition that we all know and love, Midnight. Full
I do hope so.
Yeah, full access to the Warhammer apps. That's Warhammer 40,000 and Warhammer Age of Sigmar. With more to come. I don't know enough about the Warhammer apps because I completely ignored them because I prefer a codex. But from what I've heard, that's quite good. So, be that.
But just as an update for the Age of Sigmar, I went in and had a word with our local
All
game
right,
master,
okay.
And
Game
there
Master.
are some.
GW
I got
employee. No, I get what you mean. You spoke to our local GW employee.
It's been a very busy week.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the Warhammer apps.
Apparently, we've got all the new Orc stuff coming out. Plus, they're re-releasing a mixture of some of the older content for Age of Sigmar.
Okay.
Along with they've been confirmed.
They have confirmed it.
They
Old
are
World.
moving Death Copters to plastic.
You know, only 10 years after they released them in fucking plastic. But yeah, sure.
I don't know. They'll be later on this year.
Yeah.
But
another thing that has
time.
been confirmed in the period of time since our last podcast is Warhammer Old World is coming back with the square bases, which I'm beyond happy about, and I know you are as well.
Yes, they have. Warhammer 40,000 now has bomb squigs. I'm so excited.
About bloody
they have
time.
Squigs with TNT strapped to them, and they are painted amazingly. Check out their new releases and stuff. It is amazing to look at.
Happy days.
I had a sneaky peek.
At least Yorks are getting some love. Premium access to their official events. Pardon me. I don't actually know what that means. Like, is that like... Well, they don't do Games Day anymore, do they? They have a different...
Well, they will be after all the major epidemic setup has been released in all stores. They will be going back to games in store. So I'm assuming you get...
Like special badges, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because they bought in the coins, didn't they? They brought in the coins, so it
Yes,
might be
I'm
that.
so disappointed that I haven't been able to get any more of those.
No, same,
I
because
did
they
hope they like bring
well, they're a
them
lot
back in
better.
at some point.
They're a lot better than the cards that they did, the collectible cards. I prefer the coins, but
Yeah, once you get your third one, you get a case to display them in.
which is cool as well.
And
But-
then by the time you get your sixth one, or seventh one, you then get an exclusive
Coin.
vouchery type thing.
Oh, gotcha. What else? Exclusive subscriber offers. I've got no idea what that could mean. That could mean literally everything.
Well, that could mean like
money
tickets to
off,
Warhammer World,
money
money
off,
yeah.
things, stuff like that. Which would,
free paint.
yeah. A free exclusive Citadel miniature worth at least £25 every year. Now there'll be two, one for Warhammer 40,000 and one for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. They have released what these ones are going to be, and flat out the 40k one is amazing. It's
I do
gorgeous.
hope they'd like release them like one for every 6 months, if that makes
No,
sense.
it'll be every year, and I get why.
No, I know, but like, because they have two. Do
Yeah.
you get to pick which model you get?
Yes,
or
you get to
how does
pick.
that work?
You get to pick which model you get, but you also have the option to buy the second model for £25. That's what they're doing.
Okay, I haven't had a proper look.
No, the 40k one is a Vindicare assassin who is, if you don't, those of you who don't know what a Vindicare assassin is, they are some of the best snipers in Warhammer 40,000, and he is perched up in a statue of Sister of Battlehead. Honestly, it's an absolutely gorgeous model and one of the best looking models that I've seen for a while. Whereas the Age of Sigmar one is a special Orruk. Yeah, they're Orruks, aren't they? It's a special Orruk
Yes.
Orruk boss. That, although undoubtedly worth £25 because he does look quite big, I don't think he looks as good as the Vindicare. That's just because I think the Vindicare looks amazing because it's more like a diorama, and I love those kind of models from Games Workshop. So, but yeah, that's everything that's coming out. I mean, the first shows that we know we're going to be getting is Angels of Death and Hammer and Bolter. Iron Within will be coming not that long after. And Warhammer Plus will be available from the 25th of August. So we've got a while yet before we can get it. I do actually recommend it. I think that this is fantastic. I think that this is... It's obviously, I forgot to go over the price. It's £5 a month, or $5.99 US, or just £50 or $59.99 US if you get an annual subscription. So you are saving money on an annual subscription, which I actually think is pretty cool. So yeah, I actually really like that. I think Warhammer Plus is very promising. A lot of people that were like, oh, why couldn't they get on like Amazon Prime or something like that? 40k is niche. Even nowadays, even still now, it's niche. I mean, 10 years ago, we could never have dreamed that something like this would have happened for 40k. That there would be official animations coming out that weren't absolute dog shite, like Warhammer 40,000 Ultramarine. But it's one of those, I mean, trying to get on Netflix, good luck. Trying getting on Amazon Prime, again, good luck. You're conveying to a niche crowd as it is, and yeah, although doing that could bring more people into the hobby, it's also, if it didn't get the numbers watching it and people buying Amazon Prime, like say the Grand Tour did, or people that bought Netflix just to watch The Witcher or Peaky Blinders or Sherlock, then they're not about to go and do that. However, although I recommend Warhammer Plus because I think it is a very good deal and it is really good, there has been controversy that has arisen in the recent month. Now, you probably didn't hear about this, Midnight, but about a week ago, again, another fan animator was approached by Games Workshop to join their team. He refused because he has no interest in doing it as a job. And
That's fair enough.
yep, and Games Workshop shut down his entire channel on YouTube
That is just crap.
and copyrighted all of his stuff.
That's just unfair.
This was met with colossal backlash from the fandom, as you expect, although it's rather ironic because I know for a fact that this fan animator in question did get a lot of bullying from the fan community. So, kind of ironic when Games Workshop don't like him and want to shut him down, that all of a sudden you're backing him. Well, when you was quite happily bullying him not 2 months before that. You're hypocrites and you know it. There's been a lot of backlash from the fan community, understandably so. I think that it's ban out of order because he's a fan. But, and this is going to be controversial, I get why. This isn't like the old days when fan animations were made, you know, using Gary's mod or SFM and stuff like that. Now they're making it, they have more control over it, and it is their IP. They have the right to refuse other people from contributing to their IP, because at the end of the day, they can't control what those... If fans are making it, they can't control what the fans are putting on there. Right?
No.
Right, and it can be seen by anyone. And Warhammer 40,000 and Warhammer Age of Sigmar, just Warhammer in general, is one of the biggest tabletop gaming groups in the world. Like, if someone's a tabletop gamer, there's about a 90% chance they are playing Warhammer of some kind, whether it's Age of Sigmar or 40k, or if they're really old school, Warhammer Fantasy Battles. There's a chance that they're playing that. Now, of course, you get the odd ones here and there that prefer to play the more historical games and everything like that, where there's still controversy around. If you ever read the Bolt Action German Army book, you'll completely get why. Because there's a lot of historical accuracies there, and some of them are very uncomfortable. But in 40k, they're trying to make it more public friendly, if you will. More friendly for the public and for the family. Now, that's hard in 40k's case, and even Age of Sigmar's, in my opinion, because it's the grim dark. There's only so much that you can make it light and all cuddly, isn't there?
Yeah. You can't exactly put marshmallows on orcs' teeth and call them cuddly.
Which is why although I enjoy a lot of the new books, because I think that they are very well written, there's still some that I haven't enjoyed. One that comes to mind it was a Dark Angels novel, I think it was called Secret War, and I just didn't enjoy it. It wasn't... I think I got about a quarter of the way through it, and then I just stopped. I was listening to it on Audible, and I just stopped listening to it, because it just wasn't captivating me. But a lot of the older stuff is kind of viewed as not canon anymore, and it's a lot darker. A lot darker. But even so, the newer stuff is quite dark, like the Black Legion books, for example, are quite dark. But they are trying to make it more kid-friendly, and they've been trying to do it for years now. We know that.
The comic book is quite nice. I've got a copy of episode 5.
Oh, I've had a lot of people say that the Calgar comic book, especially, is actually really, really good.
It is.
And although it was a bit of a...
The boy is not into comic books, but that's
No.
quite a good one on his front.
But he can't be into everything that us lot are into, so... Plus, let's face facts, I don't think that it's the fact that it's a comic book. I think it's the fact that it's Ultramarines.
I don't know. He's read it a couple of times, and that's where it stayed on the bookshelf now.
I guarantee if it was a Dark Angel comic, he'd have read it more.
Possibly, but it is very much... I've got books that I've read hundreds of times, and the covers are all falling off, etc, etc.
Yeah.
And I've also got books on my shelf that I've read once and never again.
But...
So...
Pardon me. But the issue is that they are trying to tone down a lot of the violence. And there's only so much you can do it in 40k.
There is.
But
they're going to really struggle.
Yeah, of course they are. Bearing in mind what the chief weapon of the Adeptus Astartes the Space Marines does to the human body, there's only so much that you can dull down the pain, like the blood and gore.
Yeah, and then you throw chaos into it.
Yeah, chaos, Tyranids.
Yeah.
Well, why do you think that Emperor's Children and Slaaneshi armies in particular haven't really got a proper update for 40k in years? Do you remember the book that came out last year that was supposed to update the Emperor's Children, and it didn't update anything for them?
Yeah, there was quite a few like that, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was supposed to be the big update for the Emperor's Children. This was it. This was going to put them on par, finally, with the other legions. And it's not just the Emperor's Children. The World Eaters have also been left in the dust. Because... And you can kind of understand why. Because when it comes to those two, they are extremes of their regards. I mean, all the Chaos Gods are extremes. But... there's nothing overly bloody or overly sexualized in Tzeentch or Nurgle, but you get that with Slaanesh and Khorne, and it's just the way the characters work. It's just the way that the gods work, and there's only so much you can tone that down or focus on other things, which is why the only time that you're ever really going to get the old school, like the true grimdark feel in 40k, in my mind, is when you're reading the Horus Heresy novels. Because they are made for an adult audience. They're not made for kids. They're made for... the Horus Heresy novels are made for people that have an insane knowledge of the 40k universe and of everything that came before it. So that when you see characters appear that you've heard mentioned numerous times. I mean, I remember the first time I saw Jago Sevatarion appear in the Horus Heresy. I was really excited because I'd heard this guy appear so many times in the Night Lords novels that he's mentioned as just like this figure that even the Night Lords feared. He was so badass. So when he finally appears, I wasn't disappointed. So that's the thing with Horus Heresy. That is where the adults go to play in my mind.
Your Games Workshop, if it wasn't for all the pandemic and everyone's like, oh, look at my 3-year-old, he's painted his first model, yada yada yada. Like, originally, Games Workshop is for 13s and up. At minimum.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
But now you've got people like, oh, we've sat at home during the pandemic, what are we going to do?
We've heard one thing that both of us have heard is, well, it's a kids game. No, it fucking ain't. I mean, yeah, kids can play it when they're teenagers, but this is not a kids game. It's not a kiddie universe.
Your chess is counted as a kid game. You learn when you're little.
When adults play it well into their, elderly years. It's a very common... You play with plastic soldiers. Yeah, I do. Well, isn't that for kids?
Not when they have sharp, pointy ends and you require, proper glue rather than they're already...
Bitch, have you seen the size of a Warhound Titan? Try and tell me that thing's a fucking kiddie toy. Can you imagine Harry trying to put together a fucking Warhound Titan as his first model?
The boy struggles sometimes putting complicated Lego pieces together. Putting one of those together, you wouldn't have a clue.
And that's no shade on kids, but at the end of the day, 40k is not made for kids. And although Games Workshop keep on trying to make it for kids, I believe that they should stop trying to do that. I believe that they should aim for the teen market more than anything else. Nothing.
Yeah, there's not a lot for teens to do. Most of all the higher crime rate at the moment is teenagers.
Well, think of the last time. Well, one of the times about a year or so ago, before the pandemic, me and you was in Games Workshop, and the two of us was chatting with a bunch of teenagers that were playing 40k together. Must have been about 8 of them in there.
Oh, that was the 4-way game, wasn't it?
Mm.
Where they had like 500 points each.
And the lads went, yeah,
that was all they could have on the table.
Yeah, I'm doing Astra Militarum. The lad went, I'm doing Astra Militarum, and I just looked at him and went, it's a guard, son. And he had no idea what I was talking about.
He looked so sheepish after he explained what it was.
Yeah.
And even the a couple of the other guys just looked at you and just was like, "Yo, what?"
It's the guard, the hammer of the emperor. No Astra Militarum in this place, boy. It wasn't meant as a dig. It was meant as a, I believe it is the duty of older players to educate the younger ones without trying to be a dick about it and try and make a joke. Like, I'll give an example because we're going to be talking a little bit about this later. But one thing that I like to do, I play a game called Foxhole. You know this, Midnight.
Yeah.
And you've heard this story. A little while, about a week or so ago, I was on there with one of our clan members. And we was sieging a city. There must have been about 50 other players all sieging the city. I showed up. It was very, very early in the morning. So the majority of the players were American. I show up and immediately just start giving orders. They're all talking about retreating. I'm like, we're not retreating. We're going to keep on. We're going to hold the line. And everyone just starts following me. I then spend half an hour giving a commissar-like speech of, soldiers of the Colonial Guard, you will not fear the warden menace. You will not take one step back. You will fire until your guns are dry, until there is not a single drop of blood in your veins. We do not retreat. And just carried on doing that. Now, 40k has roots in roleplay. Like, Warhammer 40k First Edition Rogue Trader was realistically more of a role-playing game than a tabletop game like it is now. So, I like to do a little bit of roleplay when I'm playing. It makes it fun for your opponent, but it also makes it fun for yourself because you're acting like a tit. And
The boy in Demaster, their thing is singing orcs, orcs, orcs for about half an hour whilst they're trying to move all them marines and things,
Oh yeah.
That's their thing. Gets right on your nerves and you just want to throw something at the pair of them.
Or when Demaster's doing his shooting phase and he's just like daka 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 and he's just like, dude, will you shut the fuck up? Daka 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 daka. Oh my god, I'm
like that on PC games. Sometimes if the pair of them are playing and it is just like the boy will go, look, get the Daka. They've been playing Super Mecha, and the boy will just find this glowing gun, and he'll be like, look, the Daka.
Yeah.
You can't actually tell what weapon it is, but it is a weapon.
Of some kind. But hands down, it's the 40k community can be one of the most inclusive, but also one of the most exclusive in tabletop gaming. This is something I noticed. Anyone that asks a question who's first getting into it on any of the Facebook groups, for example, normally spends the first half an hour after asking the question getting ridiculed for not knowing the answer until finally someone answers it. Now, I get it. It's annoying when you're getting people ask you the same question again and again and again. But if you've not got nothing nice to say, don't fucking answer them. Just don't fucking talk to them.
Most of the people that try to get into it drop it on the first instance because of the community.
Yeah. Another thing.
And the amount of backlash because they don't understand something in the rulebook.
Well, it's like there's so many controversial subjects in 40k. Like, what is the best Space Marine chapter? My argument is always and will always be there isn't one. There flat out isn't one. There isn't a best Space Marine chapter. There never will be. Because it kind of defeats the whole purpose of 40k in my mind. The best all-rounder, probably the Ultramarines, but even then, does that make them the best chapter? No. Female Space Marines, that's another one. Oh god, female Space Marines. Oh no, you probably haven't noticed this, Midnight, but this has been a thing for the last couple of years.
Yeah, no, I've slightly been keeping up with all the Facebook groups.
Right, I'm
I
gonna
say slightly because I've got lots of other different groups.
I'll come out
I
and
keep
say
getting lost.
I don't like the idea of female Space Marines. I have several reasons for that, and also, but both lore-based and just realism-based. One, female Space Marines aren't needed. You have the Sisters of Battle, who in my opinion are more badass than Space Marines.
We do not have half of the shit you Space Marine boys
No,
do. We have heals to try and keep us up to your
Yeah.
height.
Sisters of Battle don't have any of the genetic modification Space Marines have. They don't have any of the strength or just any of that. yes, they still use power armor and still wield bolt guns, but the power armor is already ascertained that it's not as effective as Space Marine because they don't have the black carapace that Space Marines do, so that it's more like a second skin. They don't have that, so they're not as quick as Space Marines, and they're able to do all the shit that Space Marines are. In fact, there's even cases of them wiping out Space Marine chapters that have gone rogue. I'm sorry, but the sisters are badass enough as it is to be female Space Marines. That was their intention anyway. 2. A lore reason. Genetics. Believe it or not, some people don't like to admit this, but on a genetic level, males and females, are different on a genetic level. Alright? Gene Seed, when it was made, which is how Space Marines were made, was a very prototype substance. And if you've got a choice between working until you can make it usable for everyone, or just getting to the point where, right, it works on males, we'll deal with it there, they're going to choose to just make it work on males. On a genetic level, it only works on males. And even then, it doesn't always fucking work, because people die during the process. Another real reason.
Like 5 out of every.
No, I think it worked. No, I think it worked out, and this is a stat from the Horus Heresy. One in every 100, I think, recruits, like Space Marine recruits, would actually become a Space Marine. Or it was 1 in 1,000. Some number like that would actually become a Space Marine. So even then, there's not a high. Gene Seed is not infallible. Another real reason. Yes, you can, by all means, if you want to make your Space Marines female, fucking go for it. But don't expect people to view it as canon, because people won't. Don't then complain and say that people are being sexist, because they're not. As far as I'm concerned, people not liking female Space Marines isn't sexist, it's just being real. You're deliberately making female versions of something purely to satisfy your
own missing space.
Yeah, and I know there's guys that do it, and by all means make them. Don't expect everyone else to agree with it though, because they fucking won't. The same as you won't agree with everyone else's opinions. It's a fact of life. Deal with it and move on with your lives and not stop acting like children. The majority of people that I see on these groups arguing are in their 30s or mid-30s to even 40s. And it's like, will you fucking grow up? You, stop having a go at him because he doesn't like your fucking female sisters. Some people won't like your female sisters. You, stop having a fucking go at him. Just don't, again, this pertains to the same thing I said before. If you haven't got anything nice to say, don't fucking say it.
You know, the principle's been lost through all the social media sites, like, oh, we won't put names in, but you know who it is about.
Also, another thing, for those of you that say that Games Workshop did make female Space Marines, no, they fucking didn't. It was another...
They made female guard.
No, this was an actual thing in the 80s. A company called Game Designers Workshop, I know, confusing, another British game company, in their magazine Challenge, came up with a concept of female Space Marines, right? And put it in their magazine. It was not Games Workshop, it was a completely separate company. Stop fucking jumping the gun. And if you don't believe me, Google it. And finally, now this is going to sound slightly sexist, but bear with me. Think of this from the perspective of a parent, like me and you are, Midnight. If you have a daughter and you have a son, who are you more likely to allow to be taken at the age of 10 to become... You're never going to see them again. You probably will never see them again. You most likely won't recognise them if you see them. And you won't even hear if they die. They're just going to go off. Who are you more likely to be accepting of to do that? A son or a daughter?
More likely a son.
Of course you are. Of course you are, because we have a natural, and maybe this is a bit sexist, but we have a natural tendency as parents. Men are expected, whether this is wrong or right, irregardless, men are expected to be a lot more stronger, both mentally and physically. than women. We want to protect women more. I don't know whether that's... I put that down to a natural instinct to protect women because they are the future of the human race, because they bear our children.
Well, you're back to that.
Yeah.
One person can get 100 women pregnant argument.
Yeah. Whereas only one woman, like, it takes a woman to get pregnant. Regardless, that is still a fact. Alright? I put it down to that. Although I'm more than willing to accept that women are more than capable of beating the shit out of men. There are plenty of women out there that I would not fuck with. So, regardless of that fact, if you're the Emperor of Mankind and you're looking to make the greatest super soldiers that have ever been made, who are you going to take them from? Are you going to take them from the females or from the males? It makes more sense to take the boys. It really, really fucking does.
Males have more of a sense of duty to their land.
Well, it's not just...
Women have more of a duty to their family.
It's not just that.
That's something that I've found throughout history.
It's just for a man, especially if you think, you know, for the First and Second World War, it's viewed as a more noble undertaking to fight for one's country. And in the ultra-nationalist, because it is, realm that is the Imperium, of course you're going to get that a lot more. I mean, for fuck's sake, the Blood Angels, the recruits for the Blood Angels alone go through radiation-ridden deserts that make Chernobyl look like child's play to just reach the location where they might be picked to become Blood Angels. Not even get picked, where they have a chance of being picked at. So it's messed up, but it's a simple case of, you know, it kind of makes sense when you think about it from a political point of view, as well as just playing on people's natural instincts, whether you like to admit it or not. But if you are one of those people that want to make female space marines, fucking go for it. I want a female Space Wolves chapter, because that would be badass as fuck.
Yeah. No, I would fully agree to having.
Out of all the founding chapters, the only one that makes sense to be fully female, literally the only one, are the Space Wolves. To have a female Space Wolves chapter. The Blood Angels kind of do, the Ultramarines not really. Salamanders, no, because they don't have any founding chapters until recently. The Raven Guard, no. The Space Wolves are the only ones where it makes sense. Because of how Fenris is, the women are expected to fight just as much as the men. So yeah, I fully put my... I would love to see that. And if you do have a female Space Wolves army, please send me pictures, because I would actually really like to see them. Because, again, and it's got nothing to do with a PMS joke or anything like that. It's just, I've always loved the idea of shield maidens. And that's why they make most sense for Space Wolves, because of the Viking theme. And having, like, an entire chapter made up of shield maidens makes the most...
of the Vikings overseas were women.
Yeah. I mean, you've only got to watch the show Vikings. One of the best warriors on there isn't even a dude. It's the main character's wife. And she even points out at one point that she could kick his ass. And it's just like, yep, no, she's terrifying. I wouldn't mess with her. See, at that... Shit, I would do that if I could get hold of the heads, because that actually sounds really cool now. But for what it's worth,
I've still got my sister's ones.
But I still maintain I would not expect them to ever be made canon. I wouldn't want them to be canon, because it would break too much of the established lore, and also because I think female Space Marines would take, and this is the final reason, and then we'll move on to our next subject. I think female Space Marines would take too much from the Sisters of Battle. An army that have already been shafted by Games Workshop for long enough as it is, and it's only in recent years that they've finally gotten the love that they sorely deserved.
Yeah, but to be fair, most of the bigger Tyranids are female, so, you know.
Oh yeah, if you want a badass female army, play fucking Tyranids. Although to joke that they're females, to joke that is to say that they have gender, and I don't think they have a concept of it. But because
no, but at the same time, you have the bio,
if you was to
Tyranids and stuff like that.
If you was to apply a gender to Tyranids, they would be female.
Yes.
because a lot of their larger monsters, especially, are birthing monsters, like you said. So you make a very good point, and obviously, other than the sisters, and if you was going to say Tyranids, the only other female showing in 40k was the Elder and Dark Elder, because you could get female.
Yes.
They had female models in there, and that was it. So when the only female offerings you had for a long time were Xenos, because sisters had the old metal models, it really raises questions. Like, I want more women in the hobby, but we've got so many Gate Guardians, and you get different kinds. You get the painting ones that are like, oh, you have to paint them this certain way, or the ones that are like, oh, if you paint them how they're supposed to be, then you have no imagination. Or you get the ones that are just like, if you don't know the lore, you're not a fan, or this or that, and it's just like, no. People like different shit. So I have a pet peeve as a 40k player. I hate unpainted armies. I don't know about you, Midnight, but I despise playing against unpainted armies. But when I say unpainted, I don't mean new players that have just got their models and want their first game. I don't mean that.
That's acceptable.
That's acceptable because they're just getting into their first game. What I mean is that people who have multiple armies have no intention of painting any of it, or they've only painted like a single squad to just be like, oh yeah, that's what chapter they are, or army group they are, and just don't bother painting it again. It bugs the hell out of me. It really does. And before any of you think, Betty's, I don't like fielding shit that's unpainted. I don't like doing it myself, because I used to do it and I don't like doing it now. Because I want to give my opponent, regardless, if I get the crap kicked out of me, I can still say, well, my army's fully painted. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I lost, but I've got a nicely painted army. There's that. Now, obviously, it's not always easy for everyone because of work, everything like that. But I don't. That's always been a pet peeve for me, and I've tried to let it die down a little bit. I mean, I don't know. What's your biggest pet peeve when it comes to 40k Midnight?
Oh, I don't know. Really?
Oh, I know what it is.
Probably the cocky players.
Ah.
You know, oh, this, that, and the other, and it's just like, it's a bloody model, mate. You're just gonna watch mine walk through yours, you know. That's probably where mine is mostly. Is the cocky players that.
Do you know what? I know exactly who you're talking about.
But just hang on, and especially like after the match as well, or if you've had several matches with them. Oh, you remember when I beat you or such and such? What was it? You're like a crowning achievement here. We've had 4 games since then. You know.
Well, it's like we always joke that you've never won a singles game, but you have.
The only singles game I've won wasn't even with my army.
No, the only
was against it.
The only singles games you've ever won are with orcs, which is hilarious because you haven't owned an orc army since 5th edition. But somehow they are the only ones that you're competent with, and they're not even your favourites.
No, but at the same time, I haven't played. Well, apart from that one game, I think it was before the pandemic, I haven't played as an orc player myself for, how old's the boy, 8? So it's almost 9
10 years. 10 years.
I haven't played orcs apart from that one small 500 point game on my kitchen table.
And even, yeah. But I know exactly what you're talking about. It's the kind of players that are just supremely arrogant about their ability, and when they do beat you, they're very cocky and sly about it, and it's just like, I didn't enjoy that in the slightest.
Yeah, but I already know that if I go against somebody that I don't have a partner with, I'm going to lose. So the fact that I know this even if they know it or not, they're just like, oh, I killed your such and such in the first half, you know. Like, okay, I already know I'm gonna lose, mate. Like,
well,
grow up.
a perfect example, our 3-on-3 game. You went into that with no plan. It was just like, I'll just do whatever Rise and Eyebrows tells me what to do. Like,
Yeah, well, there's.
and it wasn't
like,
because we was
guys
bossing
have
you
got
around.
a
It's
plan.
because you know none of the rules because you're not a major player. And both of us are Space Marine players as well, so you're going to take our advice on what to do with your Space Marines over.
Yeah, but on a tactical level, I'm quite savvy.
Oh yeah, hands down. I mean that Chaos Space Marine squad that refused to die for the entire game because the Necron player was a fucking idiot. Like, because he was.
I know, but no, like even with some of the other sort of PC games that the boys play in the clan, sometimes I'll sit there backseat gaming and
Oh yeah.
my plans go the right way.
But the point is, you are not really a 40k gamer. You are a painter first and foremost.
Yes.
And again, there is nothing wrong with that. In fact, I tend to have more respect for the painters because they tend to be more tolerable.
That's because you can correct us if we make something wrong.
Well, what's the point? This is something that I've noticed when playing a game. If somebody is wrong on a rule, if they are more predominantly a gamer, they are less likely to listen to you than a painter is.
That is true, because they sort of, this is my army, I've specialised in it.
Yeah.
Whereas a painter, we have.
Yeah, you've got your
Lots of-
codex, but most painters get their codex more as a painting guide than anything else, and like a little bit of fun reading on the bog or something. But it's more of a painting guide for yourself, so you don't like you understand the rules enough that I can tell you how broken Araman is in 8th edition, and you can get the concept of it, just how powerful he is now. But when it comes to the tabletop, you probably won't have the best understanding on how to utilise the rules for your favour in a game.
No, especially since I've not played it for a while. So, because I played Thousand Suns, the psychic powers have changed, the way they do them has changed.
And what doesn't help
way
matters
they
is the
work
fact
has
that
changed.
nobody else in the group uses psychers.
Yes.
So
So,
nobody else in the
guys
group
are-
has a clue how to use psychic powers. Which
No.
leaves you just like, great, none of you can tell me what to do with my army. And
Right, we're like the first game we had with me back in play, which was the big group one. We were using the how to do it from 5th edition because we all know how that worked.
yeah,
You know, roll your leadership. If you get
although to be
below it,
fair,
you're good.
a lot of the
you know.
old psychic powers from 5th edition have been dulled down a lot. Like warp time is shite now.
Yeah, well, a couple of them don't show up anymore, like outright.
Oh yeah,
There
I've noticed.
There are a couple that have just disappeared.
Yeah, I've noticed that. But it's funny how 40k has. The fandom is one of the most toxic I know. And I've noticed, and I've spoken to you before about this, Midnight, but there are stereotypes with the players. Depending on what
There are.
army is their main army. Now, of course, like anything, stereotypes are exaggerated. It's the nature of a stereotype. And it doesn't apply to everyone, right? But there is a reason for them existing. Now, bear with me. One thing I've noticed about this, Imperial players tend to be the sorest losers. And I would just say Space Marines, but I've noticed it with Imperial Guard players as well.
Probably more so the new ones.
Yeah, but definitely Space
newer
Marine,
ones,
definitely
definitely.
Space Marine players more than Imperial Guard. But I have noticed that with Imperial Guard as well, and just Imperials in general tend to be very, very sore losers when they're getting outclassed by not Chaos. Weirdly enough, they can take a loss from Chaos, but from Xenos forces, they tend to be very salty whenever they're beaten by Eldar or anything like that. Elder and Dark Elder players are incredibly arrogant.
Yeah.
Incredibly arrogant and weirdly enough, like the Elder themselves, have a superiority complex. Now again, I'm not saying every Eldar player out there is like that. I have met a few that aren't, but I've also met plenty that are like that. They can't take. They are very, very good at the game, and they know it. That's the best way to explain Eldar players. Orc players tend to be the most chill. Like, they don't care if they're getting the absolute shit kicked out of them.
No, but sometimes their mannerisms can be really annoying.
Oh yeah, they tend to be the loudest.
Moving their bloody things.
They tend to be the loudest players.
Games Workshop got a noise complaint once.
Oh yeah, I remember that. They tend to be the loudest players, but also tend to be the most fun and remarkably chill. Like, you could be completely destroying their army, and they won't care in the slightest. They'll just be like, "Just wait for it, just wait for it." And even when you finally win, they're just like, "Just wait for it." But Orc players tend to be, and they also tend to be, if they were using any other army, they'd absolutely paste you, but wouldn't be a dick about it. But because Orcs have always been kind of shafted when it comes to the rules, they're always at a disadvantage.
Yeah, but they always had the counts as special.
Well, case in point, look at Demaster in Aeronautica. Now, the man's never won a 40k game in his life, but when it comes to Aeronautica, he's absolutely destroyed everyone that's gone up against him. I think the only person that came close to beating him was Harry, and that's because Demaster was deliberately going easy on him because of how young the boy is.
I think it was going to be a very solid draw.
Yeah.
But they were down to the last plane, and it was bedtime. So you know.
Yeah. I think I've gotten close to beating him a couple of times, but then he's always managed to pull it back. But Demaster never won a 40k game, but when it comes to Aeronautica, which has a more even playing field, he absolutely destroys me and Braze. Like, completely one-sided.
The other boy is just the same. He's
he's
plane standing, and he's total 3. You know.
Yeah, but the boy just doesn't know when to give up. That's the issue.
No.
he's just like, I've still got a plane left. I can do this. Harry, boy, you're outnumbered 5-1. I can do this. Let's go. And then he'll take out like 3 planes, and everyone's just like, "Oh, is he going to do it?" No, he's not going to do it because it's bedtime. But
at least the drive is still there for it.
Yeah.
You can't knock that drive.
What else? Tyrannid players. Now, I don't know whether you've ever noticed this, Midnight, but we've never had a Tyrannid player in our group that everyone's gotten along with. Actually, think about every Tyrannid player we've ever had. They've all been, weird. They've all been weird. That's the best way to...
Their second army depends on their weirdness.
Yeah, whatever their second army is. And
like...
on another weird note, the most common secondary army, or vice versa, I've noticed for Tyrannid players is Necrons. Think about it.
No, we did have our first one.
Eventually he did...
Chaos.
Yeah.
And that was...
Yeah.
That was just weird. But
he was weird
anyway.
I rest my point. And then he did go into Necrons. He had a small Necron force, didn't he? When they were still using the 4th edition codex.
Like 1,000 points, but then he didn't get on with those very well.
The most normal Tyrannid player we've had was Dory. Because he did Tyrannids purely because he did Ultramarines. And he wanted to have both for the Battle of Macragge. That was the only reason he did them. It isn't a main army of his. It's mostly for display purposes, I'm pretty sure. And he did it as part of his art degree.
He did play. Actually, he did them purposely for his college degree.
Yeah.
That was where he played all these Tyranids and things, was for his college degree.
But he is more of a Space Marine player, Dory. I know that for a fact. So...
Yeah.
But here's a classic case of someone that breaks the stereotype of a Space Marine player, because I've played him in quite a few games, different games, Warhammer Fantasy, 40k, and each and every time he's got absolutely trounced, like I've destroyed him, and he's never batted an eye. He's been really, really happy. He's just been happy to have a game. So he is a perfect example of a Space Marine player that breaks that stereotype that I've found. What else do we have? Tau. Tau players have way too much fucking faith in their firing line.
And then complain because it's all gone to pot.
Or, another way to put it, it's not that they complain when it goes to pot. It's because you happened not to destroy one particular unit, or one particular unit survived. They tend to get very, very cocky about that one particular unit surviving, regardless of whether you shot at them or anything. It tends to be very, very much like that. If they can draw on one thing to one-up you, they will do. But I will be fair in that assessment and admit that I've only played and met a handful of Tau players. So that's a personal thing more. I will admit that is a personal view more than any of the other ones that I'm listing. More than any of them. Because
I've only ever met 2 people that play Tau, like properly play Tau.
I'm pretty sure.
Rather than just have a.
Didn't Dory? Speaking of Dory again, didn't he have a Tau army?
I think he did for a little while.
Yeah.
I don't know. I sort of dropped out the scene around that point.
Pretty sure he did. I could be wrong there. What else do we have? Chaos. Now that is more dependent on the god. Or,
that is solely dependent on the god, realistically.
Or if you really want to go further, the legion that they pick. Because that is heavily dependent on that. Like Night Lords players tend to be really nice guys that don't piss anyone off, and they're just great people to play with. That was a joke because I like Night Lords. I'd say, I mean, god dependent. Khorne is very much like orc players.
They are. They're in it for the fun.
They're in it for the fun. They want to scream out blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne, kill main burn, kill main burn, kill main burn. And they've got a. And this is something I maintain stems not just from the army, but from their main, or from the special character that is focused around the World Eaters, Kharn. They are the luckiest bastards on the planet. And can survive anything that you throw at them. Tzeentch players, however, weirdly enough, are the most unlucky players on the planet. And constantly have the dice gods going against them.
That's just me.
To be fair, you are the only Thousand Sun player I know to this day, but it is something that I've noticed people mention on Facebook groups as well. Slaanesh players. Either they like the look of the old Emperor's Children and like Fulgrim, the Primarch, or they're just really, really weird. Again, it's a stereotype, doesn't apply to everyone. This is something that I've noticed. And on another note, I'm totally not doing a Slaanesh themed Age of Sigmar force. I completely forgot I was doing that.
Your Necron playing is now doing an Nurgle force as well, so
Nurgle. I've actually never met a proper Nurgle player. Actually, yes, I have. No, I have met.
I've met 2, and one was really down to earth, and the other one bought cake. Do
you know what? That's really funny. Down to earth, and he's Nurgle.
I know, but he was just so. I don't know if he was high or what, but he was that sort of chill.
Right, got ya. What
and
else?
The other guy just bought the munches, so
What else do we have? I think that's all the main armies I can think of, because I still haven't met an Adeptus Mechanicus player.
No, they do seem to be very few and far between.
Yeah, the only person I know that's remotely interested in doing AdMech is the Master. But
I don't know if that's a model base or a lore base, though.
Yeah, I know
we do have some of the magazine pieces from
Oh no, I do have a
That's
I do have a stereotype for them. They like steampunk.
Yeah.
If you do Adeptus Mechanicus, you like steampunk. But you can't get anyone to play Dystopian Wars or anything like that with you. So you settle for the 40k steampunk. I've never met a Sister of Battle player. Sorry, Ven, but you haven't played them yet.
Yes, we have.
Oh yes,
We have met.
Consulting Gamer. Yeah, Consulting Gamer. Yep, you're right. D plays Sisters.
Mhm.
Well, going off of her, quite accepting, but I couldn't really speak. I couldn't draw a stereotype on Sisters of Battle. I don't know enough players to draw a stereotype on Sisters of Battle, or played any. I've never played a Sisters player or a Sisters army. I've played the others. What else we got? That's it. But it's just something that I've noticed that 40k armies have stereotypes. Maybe I'll do a video on it someday. But 40k players, there are stereotypes with the armies, and I think it's fun to talk about that. If there's any that you've noticed, put them down in the comments, because I'd love to hear about them. And I reckon Midnight would too.
Yeah, no, I definitely would do.
Yeah.
'Cause I'd like to know if anyone else has got the same problem as I have.
But so yeah, we're gonna have a little break there. Just shortly. I'll work out how to. I've got no idea how to pause at midnight. And then
Not good.
And then we're going to. Well, we're probably going to leave it there actually and keep it short. But we will most likely be doing one within the week, because we are going to be doing a special podcast featuring the boy. We'll be talking to him and asking him questions in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. So stay tuned for that one, because I guarantee that'll be something that you won't want to miss.
That would just be hilarious.
Yes.
With his answers, especially with his non-backing down.
I can't wait. I can't. Well, I'm kind of torn between terrified and and just like, is he going to want to do a full 2-hour one? Anyway, I'll catch you.
Possibly not.
No. I'll catch you all later in the next podcast. Next subject will most likely be going over online gaming and just certain things that we've noticed within online games that we ourselves have played. Thank you very, very much for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next podcast.